The Sabres dropped their second game of the season to the Florida Panthers. 1 win, 1 loss. A lot happened in Saturday's matinee game before the Bills played the Chiefs. So if you're looking for some hockey, here we go. Locked On Sabres, recapping these Sabres and Panthers from Saturday and a little bit of a look ahead to this week.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, Odyssey, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and be sure to check us out on our YouTube channel and check out the Locked On Sabres YouTube channel where you can watch the show and you can leave a comment. You could also like and subscribe there, which is always greatly appreciated from our listeners. The Sabres are 1-1 after a 4-3 defeat to the Florida Panthers on Saturday afternoon. Just plugging myself back into this game, rewatched it on Monday morning here. My brain moved over to the Bills for 24 hours, 36 hours maybe, with that win over the Chiefs. Buffalo sports fans are over the moon right now, and the hockey team is a small fraction of it, but even Saturday's game, there are some things to like about their loss to the Panthers, and there are some things to not like, of course, as well. So we'll break all that down coming up here on today's show, and just a little bit of a look ahead to what is coming this week for the Sabres. Their West Coast road trip comes early this season. They are out in Edmonton for a Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time game against McDavid and the Oilers. So we'll get into that a little bit later on, and then a full preview of Sabres and Oilers coming tomorrow morning. At Sneaky Joe Sports to follow me on Twitter, at Locked On Sabres to follow our podcast account. And our Twitter question of today, looking for either a Twitter or a YouTube question. This one comes from Twitter. This one comes from Giovanni. Giovanni asks whether or not Peyton Krebs sitting is a terrible idea, because Giovanni has seen the line combinations from Monday morning's practice for the Buffalo Sabres, and Peyton Krebs is skating apparently as an extra with Riley Sheahan on what would be like their fifth line at practice. And that would mean Vinny Hinostroza goes into the lineup. Krebs would be the one that comes out. And for me, that is a horrible idea. Krebs has been one of their better players, I think, this season of the forward group. He has good numbers. He's been creating opportunities. He's been holding on to the puck well. I thought there were some bad shifts in that Florida game from Krebs, but I thought overall he's been good. He's been solid with only a couple of bad shifts so far through 2 games. So big mistake, in my opinion, for Granato to take Krebs out if that's what he inevitably does, especially when Krebs is a part of the future here. Krebs is a young player that you're trying to get the most out of because he means something to the future of this organization. Vinny Hinostroza does not, and he's a fine player. He's a nice injury replacement if somebody goes down, but man, Krebs out, Hinostroza in, if that comes to fruition, is going to be something I'm going to want to rail against. And we'll talk maybe more about that on Tuesday morning when we have more clarity on what the Sabres lineup will look like against Edmonton. Thank you for the question, Giovanni. Sabres lose to the Panthers 4-3. By the way, I got a little lucky. I told you I liked the under in that game, under 7 goals. It was 4-3 at the second intermission. To get that bet null and voided because it was a push, it was a 7-goal game, that was an upset because it was looking like the over was tracking towards hitting all day, and it actually did not happen in this game between the Sabres and the Panthers. So shots on goal in this game, looking through some of the statistics from Saturday's game. The Sabres were outshot 37-27. Power play opportunities on the night. We had Florida go 2 for 6, and the Sabres for the second straight game go 0 for 4. So they're 0 for 8 through 2 games on the power play. And real quick on the power play, the Sabres aren't even getting set up on the power play through these 8 opportunities. They're not even getting up chances. They're not even getting shots on goal. And I don't know what that is. It could be just they don't have the right player as the puck carrier. They've been using Tage Thompson a lot in that manner. And Thompson's had a very rough opening 2 games. So his overall game is kind of, down at the bottom right now. And the puck carrying is, a part of that. Dahlin is skating it up through the defensive zone, but then when he gets to the neutral zone, he's dropping it to somebody else. And it's been Thompson, it's been Tuck, it's been also a lot of Casey Middlestat as the zone entryman. And that'll be something to talk about as the season progresses here. I think Middlestat is getting too much of an opportunity right now. The second line center, as a guy that's out there when you're down one with a minute to play, he's getting first line power play minutes. To me, the Sabres' best zone entry man on the team is Dylan Cousins. And their second best is probably Rasmus Dahlin. And their third best, honestly, through 2 games has probably been J.J. Peterka. And none of those guys are even on that unit except for Dahlin, who, again, has a different responsibility. So I would like to see Cousins up on that top unit just because get them set up, have someone that you know is going to get in there, come at them with speed, chip it in if he needs to, make a move. Cousins has been a very good zone entryman through 2 years in the NHL, and that's what that power play currently is missing. It's not even once they're in the zone. They're getting chances when they're in the zone. Excuse me. They're just not in the zone at all. So Cousins, I think, would be the appropriate fix for that. But even Middlestat on the second line, I'd be here. I have an appetite to see him moved off of that as well. So Middlestat, just a lot of opportunities so far, and we're not seeing a ton. I haven't hated him. He's been fine, but I just don't think he's a player capable of that much workload. He could be a serviceable offensive secondary scorer on the third line, second power play unit. But I think that's where the limit should be for Casey Middlestat. How about some of the advanced stats from this game? The Sabres the Sabres allowed 41 shot attempts. So Florida had 41 shot attempts in this game. The Sabres with 32. High danger scoring chances, Panthers 6, Sabres 5. Scoring chances in general were Panthers 24 and Sabres 14. Eric Comrie was great. Actually, the game's third star, as voted by the Buffalo media, with a 33 save outing, which is only an 892 save percentage just for that one game. But Comrie was awesome. Comrie was the only reason they were in that game early on, especially. The Panthers had, I think, 11 shots through the first 10 minutes of play, and Comrie turned them all away. I think their first goal came just a little bit after that. Double check that real quick. Yeah, Florida's first goal came at the 14:03 mark. So, yeah, a little bit past the halfway point of the first period. So Comrie stood on his head those first 10 minutes. He played, I thought, well the rest of the way. I think he earned another start. I would go back to him against Edmonton. Comrie, I thought, was really strong in this game against the Florida Panthers. Some other stats from the game. Looking at some of the advanced stats from certain lines, and this kind of reiterates the point about Middlestat and, is he getting too much opportunity? He actually, wasn't horrendous when it comes to expected goals for. But he certainly wasn't great. The line he was with for most of the game would have been Alex Tuch, Jack Quinn, and Middlestat. And they came out with a 72% expected goals for rate. That's actually really strong. That is a very strong mark by that line. But a lot of that, I think, had to do with Alex Tuch. Because the moment Tuch was taken off that line near the end of the game, Tuch got bumped up with Tage Thompson and Jeff Skinner. And on the night, that was the Sabres' best line. Expected goals for, they were 100%. 100%. It was only, 3-4 minutes of action that Thompson, Tuch, and Skinner saw together. But I feel like Tuch has been the one driving that Middlestat line, not Middlestat as much. Quinn has kind of been, a ghost through the first couple of games. He laid a hit at the end of the third period, but he was not doing much else. And the other line Middlestat played on, which was for 3 minutes, Tuch and Cousins, that one got a little bit beaten up on the scoreboard, allowing 2 goals. So Middlestat, I guess, is where I wanted to start here. But otherwise, I like the line jumbles at the end of this game. The Sabres, they allow 4 goals. They're not creating a lot of chances. They're getting beat. They're getting beat by Florida. They're competing hard. They're doing well in their own end to bend but not break. But they weren't generating a ton offensively. And I thought once Granato started to mix things up a little bit, he took Quinn away, put Tuck up with Skinner and Thompson. Had to get those two going because that Olsen, Thompson, Skinner line has been the worst line by the Sabres through 2 games. I liked what Granato did, jumbling the lines a little bit, sticking Olofsson on another line with Middlestat and Cousins. I thought that line played okay for a while. Cousins is the one, though. Cousins has been great. Peterka has been great. Peterka getting buried and got one shift in the third period. That, to me, was the most outrageous thing Granato has done in a long time, was benching J.J. Peterka, who I think has been one of the Sabres' best players through 2 games. In fact, my goat head of the night for Sabres versus Panthers, the best player in the game for the Sabres, I'm giving it to J.J. Peterka. Cousins got it night 1, and I almost gave it to Peterka then. I'm giving it to Peterka on night 2. He created so many different scoring chances. Remember that robbery that Spencer Knight has on Jeff Skinner? That is Peterka with making like an extra little move to get a backhand pass to Thompson in the slot, who then is opened up to make a pass to Skinner. That should have been a goal and was very nearly a goal, and it was all started by Peterka. He's 4 or 5 times, in each of the first 2 games is making, wow, look at that. Like, you're noticing him. You're noticing him create. He's carrying the puck. He's making moves. He scored the goal in night 1. So Peterka's got to play more. I know he's a rookie, but when he's earning ice time like that, you got to keep giving it to him. Otherwise, what is he supposed to think of that? Granato, though, is usually pretty good in this regard. So I would trust that he's going to get it together on this front. And if Peterka does earn ice time, that he's going to get it. Because that's usually something that has happened under this coach. If a young player earns something, he gets it. And that's not, commonplace in the NHL. On this team, it has been. So J.J. Peterka should be playing more than one shift in the third period when you're down by 1, and he's been arguably your best offensive player right there with Dylan Cousins. So Peterka. By the way, some of the advanced stats from this game, looking at expected goals for and all that jazz. Peterka came away with a 50.9% expected goals for. Love that. That was where 5th on the team behind Dahlin, Tuck, Quinn, Samuelson, and then there was Peterka after that. So 4 guys outranked him, and that was it. Ilya Lyubushkin, by the way, was the worst Sabre on the night in expected goals for, with just 10%. 10%. And that is all. Lyubushkin was really adding to a lot of the nonsense in this game. He was running people. I had a thought while I was at the game, this is the Sabres Gudas. Radko Gudas, headhunter, terrifying defenseman on the other side. He's playing for Florida on the other end, and Lyubushkin's playing like him out there. And I'm like, this Lyubushkin, some fans are gonna love this guy because he is going to try to take your head off every time you're coming across the middle of the ice. And he almost took out 21 for the Panthers, forgetting who that is, for Hagee maybe, almost took out his knees completely. In fact, I was surprised 21 returned to the game for Florida. So Lyubushkin on the stat sheet was horrific, but he was throwing his body around, and Granato did a good job not playing him a lot. He only got 9 minutes of even strength ice time. Speaking of all the nonsense that happened in this game, we'll get to that when we come back. We'll also break down some blame pie. It's a loss, so we got to throw some blame around. And the Brandon Montour shorthanded goals, where I'm going to go with that. So we'll break that down frame by frame. And also, we'll go through the goals and my thoughts on why this game really turned on its head and went the Florida Panthers' way. Sabres lose to the Panthers 4-3 on Saturday. We'll continue to recap the game when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are brought to you by Simply Safe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe home security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use Simply Safe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when the threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Their monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real so they can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% off on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe.